Good morning, y'all. What's up? Coach Smith. Love the game 24/7. Good morning. Good Saturday morning. Just a little bit late trying to get some things set up, but I'm glad I was able to get it going here. So I appreciate you guys who are joining me via Facebook Live, IG Live, or my YouTube Live. Appreciate you joining me this morning. Happy New Year. If I haven't told you Happy New Year, if you haven't seen me, to let you know Happy New Year 2024. We're doing more with Love the Game 24/7. And so I'm excited to be with you guys this morning. Thanks for joining. I'll give just a minute or two that people are logging on and getting in. And so I want to thank you for taking some time out on your Saturday morning to join me here on YouTube, Facebook, and IG. Just have a quick short message this morning as I'm staying busy getting things put together for the digital course release. And so I want to be sure I don't take up too much time this morning and just have a short, brief message for you student athletes out there, you male and female student athletes, middle school age up to high school age and beyond. Just want to be sure I set the table and give you some good advice. And if you haven't seen my recent messages, of course, you can go to my link tree, Love the Game 24_7, and go back and look at some of my previous messages. I have some out there on LinkedIn if you follow me there. But you can go out on my link tree and get to my YouTube channel and go back and see some previous messages. I just had a recent message that I shared about, are you tired of being told no? Student athletes, are you tired of being told no? So you can go out there. I'll also have some clips, short clips on TikTok. Love the Game 24/7. You can join me there on TikTok and go back and see some previous messages. Good morning, Sarah on IG. Thanks for joining me this morning. I was just sharing. You can go to my link tree at Love the Game 24_7. Appreciate you joining me. Be sure you share with other male and female student athletes and parents who want to get some great advice on the recruiting process, dealing with middle school age up to high school kids age and beyond, and even dealing with transfer portal college athletes. But I appreciate you joining me this morning, along with some others on my Facebook and YouTube Live as well. But as I said, if you go to my link tree, Love the Game 24_7, you can get to all my social media platforms that way. And you can go out and see a message I shared earlier this week on, are you tired of being told no? And I got a lot of great short clips on TikTok that you can go out and view as well, and see some of those little tips that I had broken up and shared out on TikTok. And I even share some on my IG as well if you haven't seen that. But be sure to subscribe to my YouTube, follow me on IG, and definitely appreciate you guys joining me. And you can follow me on TikTok and all those things. I kind of put all those things out there, messages that I'll be sharing. I usually do Tuesday or Wednesday, once a week, and Saturdays. Every Saturday is at 11:30 Eastern time this time. So I don't care if you're a lacrosse athlete, I don't care if you're a soccer player, softball, the recruiting process for college is all the same. These are things that you need to do to get the attention, to get the exposure, things that I share and that I did for myself when I didn't have a coach helping me, things that I did as I coached over a decade with high school kids in football and track. I did with my own son, both my sons, and my oldest son who decided he wanted to play sports. I took him through this process. This is something that I know that works and helps kids get recruited. And it doesn't matter what sport, male or female, we need to get you some exposure. We need to teach you how to do things now, early. And so we want to definitely get you high school, middle school, and high school kids before. A lot of these things that I'm talking about, you need to do by your junior year in high school. Okay. And so for you young middle school kids, parents, this is information I'm sharing is great information. Today I'm going to be talking about how to get yeses, right? And just as I just mentioned, you got to do these things. These things need to be, this will need to be in motion well before your junior year in high school, because really it's that junior year in high school, right, that you're really should be on a lot of people's radar, a lot of colleges' radar for whatever sport you're playing. By that time, you should have really um, been getting some exposure. And if not, if you're in high school and you haven't done some of these things, and you still have time, and we can get this. We just got to get working, and we got to find out where you are, and really get you moving, and get you going with getting your name out there, and whatnot. But today, as I said, we'll talk about what it means to get the yeses, because that's what we're looking for. How to get the yeses, how to get ourselves the exposure we desire, and if you're him, and if you're her, if you're that athlete, male or female, then you have the opportunity and potential to really be give yourself some opportunities, and that's what it's all about. It doesn't matter what level, right? With the new NCAA environment today, with NIL and the transfer portal, even some of these student athletes, as I'll talk about and share today, are so many on the transfer portal are losing scholarships because they're transferring, and they may not get another scholarship somewhere else because maybe they, some things that they should have done or needed to do, or needed somebody to, help them understand what they needed to do, to be sure they did get their name out there. But as I said, how do we get the yeses, right? How do we get that? And if you're a student athlete, and you're a parent, as I've always said, you have to be involved. And coaches, any coaches out there, there's some coaches out there who may not know as much as you think they do, and they need some help. So if there's any coaches out there listening, hey, I'm happy to help as well, with some of your coaches with some things, because you got to have, as coaches, you got to have a open door policy, right? You got to be willing to talk to parents and help them understand how this recruiting process works, because parents get frustrated when they don't see kids getting scholarships and getting opportunities to go, and especially if you have a pretty decent team and you got some really good players on the team, but these kids aren't going anywhere. And a lot of times it's because of lack of information, right? And sometimes some of the head coaches have lack of information. And to me, disservice if you're a head coach and you haven't communicated and shared and given information. Whether you do it personally as a head coach, you should have somebody designated on your staff to be able to help teach your student athletes and parents about how to go through the recruiting process. Sometimes the reason why you don't get it is because sometimes some of the coaches don't know it that well. And now with everything changing with NIL and the transfer portal, a lot of this stuff is new. Okay. And so we haven't been here before with these types of opportunities that student athletes are getting now. So so in order to get the yeses, my thing is always, you need to start at a middle school age with your student athlete. You figure out what sport that they love and that they're really good at. You be sure you help them get some additional training if needed. But we don't want to wear that out either, but there is that time where if your student athlete is showing, your daughter or your son are showing that they have a love for this sport and they're dedicated to it, then you need to invest in possibly getting them some additional help, because sometimes they don't always want to listen to us parents. Even like me, playing football, my son didn't always want to listen to me. So when I became a coach, he didn't just have me that he could talk to. He had other coaches that I coach with. Now everybody can't coach. Every parent can't coach. So you have to find those coaches on your child's team that they have a good relationship with, and that they listen to, and that you feel comfortable with as a parent as well, and allowing your son or daughter to get some additional training or coaching up under a certain coach, whether it be male or female coach, in whatever sport that they're playing. So Once you find that out, once you see that you have a son or a daughter that they have an interest in several sports, and I'm always big on more than one sport as well, even if they do have one main one that they're really good at. Sometimes you may have one sport that you really love, but it may be another sport that you're best at. Doesn't mean you shouldn't participate in both of them, because they're both of those sports. Participating in both of those sports is going to help you excel in the sport that you may be best at, right? I know my older brother loved basketball, and he was pretty good at basketball, but he excelled a lot more in football and track than he did in basketball. But he still played. I played basketball, but I knew as a 5'9" guard, point guard, who was okay shooting the basketball, that was going to be my way to get my education paid for. Now, I think if I would have put more time in it, that I probably could have been. But with the size of players, when you're 5'9", you better be very special, right? Let's be honest and realistic. You're 5'9", 5'10", you're under 6 feet. You better have something very special that you can do with that basketball. And that's why I always try to be realistic with some kids. I had a young man that I coached in high school. I think he went on to UF as a D lineman. He came to the private school I was coaching back in Florida, and he loved basketball. But he played football because some of his basketball teammates played football as well. So he's like, hey, I'll play football too. And I shared with him, I watched him play basketball. He was an okay basketball player at 6'5", 245, 50 pounds as a sophomore. But he dominated on the D line so well. It was like, man, this is your ticket. And I pulled him over several times during his years there, just to let him know, just not to discourage him. Hey, I know you love basketball. I know that's where your heart is. I even told him, because I worked at a local college back in Florida, private school, Division II school that had basketball but didn't have football, where this kid attended basketball camp quite often. And I even talked to the head coach because I knew him well, because I worked there in financial aid and working with the student athletes. And I asked the basketball coach at the college where this kid would frequent basketball camp what his thoughts were, right, of this kid potentially playing basketball. And he just said, with the talent that he's recruiting at the Division II level, thanks for joining, guys. At the Division II level, he wouldn't really come at this young man hard, even though he was 6'5", good on his feet and good hands. That he wouldn't recruit him hard at the D2 school where I worked, where this kid went to basketball camp. And I just wanted to get that information for that young man. Thanks for joining, guys. I want to get that information for this young man. One second, Jamil, I'll give you a chance. If you had a question, just 1 second, I'll get you on in a bit. All right, let me just finish sharing this. But as I was helping this young man that I was coaching, he played D-line. I told him, I said, look, hey, I shared the information with him. I said, hey, I talked to the basketball coach at the college where I work. He knew I worked there. And I just said, hey, the coach just shared some information with me where he thought that football would probably be your best avenue other than basketball right now. And just being honest with him. And the kid he had a good attitude. As a matter of fact, he was a cousin of, his last name is Hester. He was the NFL punt returner, Hall of Fame guy, Devin Hester. That's his cousin. And I just said, hey, just sharing this information with you. This coach said, he thought you were a pretty decent basketball player. But when I told him you were playing football and how you were dominating, he was like, hey, that probably is the best avenue for this kid to initially do. But I also encouraged him to continue to keep playing basketball in high school to help his skills develop in football, which he did. And he had Alabama, Texas. I mean, he had schools that were jumping on him for football like crazy. He never got that attention for basketball, but he definitely got it for football. And because he played basketball, it helped him hone his skills at football. And so that's how he was able to get some yeses, because of his skill in basketball were decent. And because he always played basketball and had never really played football, he said, because he was always too big, he didn't really get to play football when he was younger, and really just started playing when he got, to us at the high school back in Florida, the private school where I used to coach, that was really his first time really focusing on football. And so, um, but like I said, because he listened to what we were saying, not just myself, all the coaches, he listened, he was willing to, he was coachable. That's another way you get yeses. You got to be coachable. You need to listen, right? This is how we get yeses, right? He was a leader. He was a good example of hard worker. Never had to question him. These are the type of things you have to do. Um, these intangible things that you have to do to be sure you can get the yeses that you want to help you in your recruiting process, right? To be sure you have the coaches, your high school coaches, and other folks on your side, right? And so this is the things that I'm going to share with you as I shared previously. Like I said, go back and look at my other videos that I shared on my YouTube. You can get to all my social media platforms on Linktree with Love the Game 24_7. And but like I said, I shared some videos earlier this week. I'm usually on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and on every Saturday. And you can follow my little messages on TikTok. But I did a message earlier this week about, are you tired of being told no? And today we're talking about how to get the yeses, right? And so, like I was just sharing about this story about the young man that I coached that played D.R.I.V.E.N, you know, because he was coachable, because he listened, right? And because of that, he started having film that he needed to show his skill level, okay, at his position, right? And so he developed, he got in that weight room. Because he played basketball, by the time he left us, he was like I said, he was 6'5". He came in about 6'4", but he left about 6'5", 255, 60 pounds or 65 pounds, but he was lean. He didn't have a lot of fat on him. It was more muscle, and because he ran up and down that court playing basketball, that helped him in his skill and developing his skill. But his love was basketball, but his ticket to get a scholarship was football. And it could be vice versa, or it can be both for some student athletes. But you also have to be realistic, right? If we're going to get yeses, so you can focus on what sport it is that you need to hone in on, right? While you still play and participate in another sport that's going to help hone your skills. Because I ran track from 7th grade all the way through college, right? I didn't stop running track when I got to college. Okay, I went to a D2 school, and I know there's some D1 schools that will make their skilled players run track, and you should, right? Because you want to run that 40 time that you need to run one day, right? For these pro scouts, if you get that opportunity. But this is how we get the yeses, okay? You have to sure that if you want to get to the next level and you're in high school, you got to get, invest in yourself. Parents, you got to invest in your students, right? You got to sometimes get them some personal training, maybe outside. Just be sure it doesn't interfere with their sport, okay? And like I said, coaches, the coaches out there that may be listening, you need to invest. If there's some things that you don't know and you need some help, maybe you got an assistant coach that knows this, or you can, I can provide services to some high school coaches and programs. I've done it already, and we'll be doing it this year. One of my good friends that I played college ball with is a head coach in Iowa, and he's going to have me come out sometime early this year to talk to the student athletes and parents at his high school, because he knows that, hey, he's seen some of the things that I've talked about. We played college ball together. He know I was blessed to get to the next level. He was a world-class sprinter in track and field, but he was also a wide receiver. But now he's the head coach at this high school, and so he wants me to come in and help him develop his program and encourage his parents and student athletes along with helping him. And I told him I'm more than happy to do it. But like I said, I'm going to be releasing this 10-week digital course, guys. It's going to help you learn how to get your yeses. So parents, you want to invest in this. Student athletes, you need to talk to your parents. Coaches, you can be ready to get involved and partner with Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7, so you can go through this 10-week that I'm going to show you. I shared my picture on our story on IG to let you know I was getting ready to go live this morning at 11:30 of my son with the Arizona Cardinals, of these things that I walked him through, right, to help him get him Power 5 offers as a quarterback. even though he converted to wide receiver later on. Um, but I think he should have still played quarterback. But that's dad. He got to do what he feels is best for him as well. I can't always know what's right. So he made the right decision to get him some yeses that allow him to be in the league going on 5 years. So hey, I I have to sit back and be quiet because he made a decision and it's been a good one for him. But because of the things he was taught at a young age from middle school when I started these things with him, and so that's where we really have to start. But if you're in high school, it's not too late, because like I said, I didn't have any help, and I didn't learn any of these things until my 10th grade year in high school. And so, and I listened to what the older guys were saying because they knew we didn't have help from my high school coach. And so they told me, you need to go to these camps. That's how you get yeses. Because why? You need to go to college camps because the college coaches need to see you. You need to expose yourself to these college coaches. So that's another way you get yeses, because as you start doing this in middle school and you repeatedly go to some camps you may repeat and go to, you got to understand these coaches all talk to each other. All these college coaches talk to each other. They know who they're recruiting, right? They know who they have a chance at and who they may not have a chance at. But all these coaches, they have their clinics and their coaching clinics, NCAA coaching clinics, and all of them show up and talk about who they're recruiting and who you think you might get. They talk to each other. Same thing with the transfer portal and stuff that we have going on. Another way to get yeses is make sure you're carrying yourself a certain way. Make sure you're a team player. Make sure that it's not hard for you to transfer, so you get yeses, so you'll be able to transfer another school. Sometimes some coaches will know it's not happening for you here at this school, and they may help you get transferred to another school because they're real tight with another coach and they can make a call for you. But you got to be sure that you're conducting yourself accordingly, so you have that support of your college coach when it's time to transfer and you get in the transfer portal. Not all coaches are upset that there are student athletes in the transfer portal. They're not. I don't know if you ever saw the story with Nick Saban when um, uh, what you call him, the quarterback at Philadelphia Eagles, when he decided to transfer and leave Alabama. When Nick Saban helped him, even made some calls, because he was what? He was a humble young man. He was a leader. And Nick Saban felt compelled that he needed to help. And the young man also said that Coach Saban was a supporter of helping him transfer when he transferred portal. But he was a high level talent as well, right? And he did need some work at quarterback. And Nick Saban even said in the story that he said, "Hey, Oklahoma would be the best place for you to go because this coach I think can help you hone your skills at quarterback." And sometimes it works out like that. But there are a lot of stories that none of us hear that they are getting some help from some coaches, and some guys aren't because maybe they didn't conduct themselves maybe a certain way. I don't know, or maybe you know, um, uh, like I said, there's a lot of reasons maybe why some student athletes are transferring in the transfer portal, and it didn't work out. And maybe that's why you got to be sure you make the best decision as possible, right? That's possible for you to go and succeed. That's why you can't knock Division II football is going to be the new Division I because all this transfer portal NIL things that are going on, right? And so you need to consider, hey, just like I had to, I got some exposure to Division I schools, right? But because there was a coach at a Division II school that was from my hometown, right, that recruited one of my older brothers before me. I mean, he even said he knew I was going Division I, but he told me, he always said, "Hey, if something don't work out, because I know you have a coach that doesn't really help you guys." He knew that, but he just always told me, you got a scholarship at Morningside College. We're a great D2 program with North Dakota State, North Dakota, and all those guys before they went FCS during my day. And so I knew I had a Division II scholarship with him. So I didn't burn any bridges, right? You can't burn any bridges if you want the yeses. Don't do that, right? And when you guys go on recruiting trips or when you go to camps, always make sure you present them. Always make sure you look coaches in the eye and shake their hand. Always make sure you speak to people. Don't be afraid to talk to coaches, right? You got a goal in mind, right? You got um, something that you've always dreamed of possibly doing in your sport, young lady. So be sure you always, young lady, when you go to your camp for basketball or volleyball, you make sure you go up to the coach and speak to him and look him in the eye, smile with confidence, right? And make sure your video is looking or showing you always hustling, not with your head down and your shoulders, or you got a history of not being a team player. You don't want that. We got to make sure you change that, right? Always be willing to help others just like you want to be helped. Be that teammate that's always supportive, not always dogging or getting or yelling at teammates. Sometimes we do have to get on each other, but make sure you pat, young lady, pat that your teammate on the backside. Guy, same thing. I pat him on the shoulder and like, hey, I'm getting on you, but hey, we gotta do what we need to do to win this game, or to help us make sure we give ourselves scholarship opportunities, right? We gotta hustle. We gotta make sure we're team players and helping each other, right? You got to make sure that you're doing those types of things and encouraging your teammates, and always being that example of somebody that's a hard worker as well, right? You can't get on teammates if they know they can call you out on something. Now, none of us are perfect. We all have our days sometimes, but you got to learn how to bounce back. That's what it is about playing sports. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for student athletes, male or female, in your sport that you play. Do you have that bounce back? Right? Do you have that do you have that um skill and ability, to put a bad play behind you or mistake behind you, so and you're showing that you know how to bounce back from it, and still make good plays and make good decisions, right? And so when coaches and scouts and recruiters see that, when they come see you play or in your film, um, those types of things, they're going to um, you know you're going to put yourself in a position to get those yeses, right? To get those offers that you're looking for at any level, right? And you want to get as many offers as you can at any level to give yourself opportunities and options, right? Some choices. My son came out, he had a lot of lower Division I and FCS scholarship offers. And then he started getting some power because he had a few Power Five offers, right? Because he got a few Power Five offers. A lot of the FCS schools that came through always say, hey, coach, we love to have your son. He's a great QB. We love to have him here. All right. So he gave himself a lot of options and opportunities. Right. And so with this transfer portal stuff, knowing that he had those options, and when he was getting recruited, if he did have to or need to transfer because of his character and his leadership and how he carried himself, he wouldn't, if he wanted to transfer, I'm sure he wouldn't have had an issue transferring because of his background, of his history, and I'm sure his coaches would have supported that. And so you want to be sure you do everything possible, right, to be that teammate, the consummate and genuine teammate, and be that example that you need to be to your teammates for everybody to win, right? And I never was one to not share information with my teammates when I was in high school. I wanted all of us to make it. So whatever I learned about recruiting, the recruiting process, I made sure I shared it with my teammates, right? Because we all need to be out there on that field helping each other excel, so we can all get yeses and get ourselves options and opportunities, right? And so that's why I'm doing these videos, and that's why I'm going to share them with you. That I'm going to be releasing my digital course, 10-week digital course. I'm going to do that live, and you can partner with Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7 if you need that help, that assistance in learning how to navigate through the college recruiting process and how to master it, because it's definitely different today than when I grew up. But I stayed on top of it because I'm a coach, high school coach. My son is still playing, so I'm aware and familiar with all this NIL stuff. Still learning it because it's still new, but also with the transfer portal. Like some of you high school kids may not get the Division I offers that you probably are suitable for or good enough to go play, but because of the transfer portal, with some kids taking scholarships, some high school kids may not get that, so you can't look down at a FCS 1AA, what we called it, FCS, or Division II offer, maybe even a Division III, and then you might need to transfer a year or two later and get developed, because guys are transferring from D2, NAIA, and Division III going up to Division I and Power 5 schools, right? Because they spend a year or two playing in a lower division and honing their skills, right? But when you do that, you got to make sure you are that him and you're that her in your sport, right? You got to make sure that you are it, right? If you have to play at a lower level, right? So when I went to Division II, it allowed me as a freshman in college to get on the field sooner, right? That's what it's about. I'm trying to get on that field. By the fourth or fifth game when I was in college, I started. But we had great competition at running back in college, so I was in that rotation, that starting rotation as a freshman. And I know that was more likely to happen with me going Division II than it did with me going Division I. I don't doubt that I could have possibly played as a freshman at Division I level, but I know it was more likely with me going D2 and doing that, right? And so you may have to consider that and then consider transferring, because I considered transferring after my sophomore year as well, right? But I didn't have the information like they have today about transferring. So, I stayed put, but I still got the opportunity to play at the next level in the NFL because I made sure I was one of those top players in my conference in the Division II football, right? You can look up me in my rankings, where during the time I was playing, I wasn't a leading rusher, but I was one of the top rushers in the conference. I was listed probably in the top 20, top 25 rushers in the nation. But I was also one of the top all-purpose running backs when it came to returning, punt returning, kick returning, being a running back, and receiving, catching the football. Sometimes I would line up as a receiver, as a running back. I was all-purpose, so I had well over 2,000 yards all-purpose, in my junior and senior year, right? Making sure that I put myself, make sure if my numbers are good individually, I'm helping my team be good. So, it's not always being selfish that you want to do well, because if you're doing well, you're potentially going to help your team do well, right? So you have to have some individual goals that match up with your team goals, because if you're a starting person on your team, or you're in that starting rotation, you need to make sure you're playing your best, right? I didn't worry about numbers. I balled out and worry about the numbers later. Looked at the numbers later when the game was a day or two later, when stats would come out. All right. But I wasn't worrying about my stats during the game. I knew if I balled out in the game, I got some nice stats. Right. But I'm focusing on balling out so I can help my team win. Right. And when coaches see that, and when you're in high school, that's how you get some yeses as well. Right. It's not necessarily about getting W's, or having losses that you're not going to get recruited. No, what does your film look like? When I view and see your film, do you stand out? Right? Are you standing out not just from your team, but the team that you're competing against? Who stands out on film? When I look at film, you got to compete, right? In all levels, on and off the field, grades, test scores, right? SAT and ACT. Are you standing out there in those areas? Because that's another way you get the yeses, right? When you cross those first two hurdles, you get the yeses. Okay, you will get the attention. And then when I look at film, come watch a football game. Who are the best players on that field, on that volleyball court, right? Who's the best player on that lacrosse field? When I come watch you in high school and you're competing against, maybe one of the top teams in the state or nation, right? As I shared on one of my videos, when I knew there was players on the opposing team that had ball players getting heavily recruited, my mindset was, okay, then I got to show them, yeah, he's good at that position. I know some of you all are coming to see him. Cool. Here's my opportunity, to show you what I'm all about as well. So when I knew and even some guys on my team, there were some guys that were a little bit older than me, a year or two older than me, that were being heavily recruited. And we had scouts that would come out to spring football, and you have your time to shine as well. Those scouts are going to ask, oh, coach, who is that? And I can tell you right now, as a high school coach, um, when we had players, scouts were coming to see certain players. The scouts were asking me, okay, coach, who are your rising sophomores and your rising juniors? They would ask that, because it was getting to the point where they already knew certain guys were, hey, they were committed here to these schools, blah, blah, blah. They know this kid, we came to see so and so and so and so, but they also want to know who are the ones coming behind these kids. They're taking notes. Okay. You got to understand that these college recruiters are taking notes on the future talent that's coming up behind the seniors when they come visit. They aren't just looking at the kids who are the big names on your team and who are getting the offers. They're coming to see you as well if you're an underclassman. They want to know what you're all about when they come and visit that school. And they ask the coaches, right? We have coaching meetings. I'm telling you, they ask. Coaches these college recruiters are taking notes. Coach, who are the kids we need to make sure when we come back next year? Who should we be looking at? Or if they are interested, if you did go to a camp, that recruiter's going to come in and say, hey, coach, we had some kids from your high school that showed up at our camp. They may be coming in to look at one of your teammates who that's being heavily recruited. But if you went that camp, that coach is going to come, that recruiter is going to come and say, coach, you had some other kids too that showed up at our camp, along with your big time recruiter over here. Who are these other kids? Or what you think about them? And your coach, if he's in your corner, he's going to say, oh yeah, coach, you need to keep your eye on all these kids. You need to keep your eyes on several of these kids. Yeah, because they're going to be at that level. Right. So those are some other ways how you get yeses. Right. You got to understand how to navigate and how to use this opportunity and how to play this game of getting yourself recruited. But you got to be realistic, right? You got to put in the work. You got to put in the work in the gym. You got to be dedicated. You got to be sure you carry yourself correctly, because when they come on campus and recruit you, they're going to ask the cafeteria lady, they're going to ask the janitor, right? I don't care if you're male or female athlete, what sport you playing. When these coaches come, they're going to ask. They're going to pull a student to the side and ask, oh, what do you know about so and so? Especially if you're a very heavily recruited or a good player in your sport on your team. They're going to ask when they come visit. They're going to ask random people when they walk around campus, do you know so and so? What you think about it? And you need to make sure you have a good reputation, right? That people can speak well of you to get the yeses. And you need to make sure you partner up with Coach Smith 10-week digital course that I'm going to release live here in the next month or so, right? And you need to partner up with that. And you need to invest in yourself. Parents, if you're on here, you need to invest in your student athlete. I paid for, my son was a quarterback. I paid for him to have quarterback coaching. All right. And there were some kids that play wide receiver. I would coach some kids at wide receiver and DB drills. I did that to invest, especially if I knew they had the ability to go to the next level and get a scholarship, right? To help pay for their education. Don't get so caught up in the NIL stuff right now. That stuff will work itself out. There's some things that'll work itself out. Right? You control what you can control. Okay? You do the things that you can control, and all the other stuff worry about itself. That's how you get the yeses. Right? Control yourself by getting in the gym and getting stronger, being on time. Right? My wife used to tell my kids, being on time is late. Right? And being early is on time. All right? And being, late is just unacceptable. So you got to make sure you have that mentality at the front of your mind, not in the back of your mind, in the front of your mind. That needs to be your goal. Okay. So I hope this helped you. I'm going to be back here again at 11:30 every Saturday, right? Until I release my digital course. But if you want to get a 40% discount on my digital course when I release it, you can email Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7 at loveth247game@gmail.com. Love the 247game@gmail.com. All right. So hit me up on my email, subscribe to me on my YouTube, follow me on Love the Game 24_7 on IG. Right. Get your parents to follow me on Facebook on Love the Game 24/7 to get this great information, because my goal is to help over 500 kids this year get scholarship offers and more. That's my goal. Right. It's a lofty goal. Right. I started this business and started doing some viral stuff to try to grow my business, because I know there are a lot of student athletes, male and female, out there missing some opportunities because of lack of information and not getting help from your coach, from the adults that you know and thought would be helping you and should be helping you. Right. So because I've been there, I know how it feels not to have your coach in your corner and helping you and sharing stuff. And then when I learned stuff, it was like, oh wow, man, but like I said, I lost my father in ninth grade to cancer. So after my ninth grade year, during my ninth grade year, right at the end of my ninth grade year, just before the summer, and so my mom, single mom, didn't know much. She just trying to make it happen. One of my older brothers, well, both my older brothers were off in college, and so there was a lot of stuff that they didn't know. But when they got to college and learned, they were like, "Hey, little brother, this is what you need to do. These are some things that you need to do to get the yeses," because they knew I love football and wanted to get me a scholarship just like they got scholarship. Okay. And I knew I had the ability. And if you know you have the ability, put the time, work, and energy in it. Commit yourself to it. Okay. Because it's going to help in the long run. I work at a college. I'm a college administrator, and college is expensive, and you don't need to get any loan debt. And so, if you have a skill or a talent as a male or a female student athlete, you need to use that to help supplement your education. Whether you get a full scholarship or not, you get some sort of scholarship money to help pay for your education. Okay. But like I said, let all the other stuff worry about itself. But if you want to have the success that I know you can have, you need to partner up with Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7 and get ready to partner up and sign up for my 10-week digital course that I'll be releasing here soon. And you share this information with as many people as possible. But I want to help as many people as possible. Okay, to help you get the yeses that you should be getting. But like I said, most times people don't. Um, um, they wait till late to do some things, or they have lack of information. We got to build your confidence up, right? I had to learn how to build my confidence up. Okay, and know that I deserve the opportunity. You know, and if you know you put the work in, you have film, right? You can get some offers, right? And don't discount any offers that you get. Okay, I don't care what level it is. If it can help pay for your education, you have to consider it, and you need to consider it. Okay, but like I said, if you want the help, you want to get those yeses, then you need to partner up with me, Coach Smith, and let's follow this 10-week digital course on how to be successful in the recruiting process to help you get those offers that you feel you deserve. And I can teach you and help coach you through about what you need to do to get that, to get those offers, to get those yeses. Okay. And so I'm excited about it, and appreciate you all joining in today. You need to make sure you share this with your teammates, your family members, or whatever, whoever. Share it, follow me, like it. Okay. And let me see if I have I'm sorry if I didn't get I know somebody I thought had a question, but I don't see them on here still. But hey, I don't want to keep you on your Saturday. But once again, look to join me next Saturday for another topic, 11:30 in discussion. I may take more questions next week on some things. But like I said, be sure to follow me on my link tree at Love the Game 24_7. But have a good weekend, safe weekend. Have a happy new year. And hey, let's get to putting that work in and getting some great information to help you along your process to get those yeses that you should have in your scholarship opportunities in your sport. And whether you're male or female, I want to work with you middle school and high school student athletes and parents. So let's get it done in 2024. Let's do more. All right. So take care.